for super golden today. All right, got a bit of an energy update. Feel like I haven't live streamed for like ever and a day, not publicly anyway. I've been coming back to reality out of fairyland or something, it feels like. All right, and I've got a lot to say about this energy update. Just moving this up a little bit higher. Hello people. Hi. All right. Okay, let me get comfortable because like I've got a couch. I'm not used to having a couch. My old house on the Sunshine Coast never had a couch. So let me bring these comments up because you're like way over there and I can't see the screen. Well, I kind of can, but let me bring it up here. So I'm curious, guys, how you are. Let me know how you're feeling. And as always, I will share this. And I was like in the middle of like doing clients, and like client after client, and client was like saying the same thing. And I'm like, I need to do an energy update about this right now. Like everything can wait because, oh my God, this message obviously needs to get out right now. And as always, recently I've been feeling like this is just me and I'm going through this stuff, and then client after client after client, and I'm seeing all this stuff in my feed, and I'm like, Hannah, remember who you are, remember your gift, remember what you do. This is actually collective stuff, and I've got a lot of like insight to say about this in particular. So yeah, so just give me a second to share this, as always. Because, yeah, this one's pretty big. Pretty big. But again, I just, yeah, I feel like it was just me, but it's not. It's not, but I've been going through it, obviously. But now I see how it connects to like the collective and the bigger picture. So let me speak about this, yeah? All right, getting there. Share on my timeline, here we go. Almost forgotten how to do this stuff. It's like I've just been literally the past week, like coming back to reality out of fairyland. Like I know I kept saying it, like I'm in the Miss of Avalon and like the realm of fairy, and I'm like didn't actually realize how much like that was the real deal out there. And now coming back to reality, I'm like, oh, and I've like burned through so much firewood already. And then like I asked the guys, like I was like, so like how do I get more firewood like in town sort of thing, because it was even a thing not being able to like collect the wood from the trees and like everything. And I'm like, how do I light the fire without all the little branches? And then I'm like, oh, there's kindling stuff here, right? I use this. And then after like burning through like constant fires for like 24 hours a day, for 3 days, I realized that was my like arriving back into reality while still having nature like burning next, like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of interesting. Even interesting down to the fact of like cutting up veggies and stuff and not having the chooks to feed the scraps to. Like it was just like, whoa, like we've definitely been in another land, right? Okay, so let me bring this up. For some reason that's not letting me do what I want to do, but that's fine. Okay, I'll just leave it. All right, so caught me live. Yes, caught me live. Hi Loretta, Lexina, Tammy, Penny. Yes, it's great to see me. I know like it's been a while, right? It's been a while. Come here. And this one just finally had her bucket thing off her head today as well, because she was in a cat fight a few weeks ago, and then she's had like the bucket thing around her head and she just got it off. So I think you're feeling a bit happier, huh? She's healed and better. Hey Dawn. Oh, now she's fully purring. All right, so hi Nalina, Matthew, Erin. Hi. Oh, it's so good to connect with you all. Tammy, Dana Murta, Shannon. Yes, you caught me live. I've been live for so long. Burning, cleansing, I know. Thanks for sharing, Tammy. Yeah, share, guys, because I've got a lot to say about this with this energy update. And yeah, like this particular fire in this room, it's like a roaring fire. Like it's, I don't know, it was just like, whoa, this is super cleansing. Like I could feel it all being pulled in, sort of thing. So yeah, so this is really interesting, right? And the piece that is really coming through right now is around the masculine and patriarchal structure. Now, again, I've been going through my own stuff and processing this week, and I'm like, well, you know, like what is that? You know, like just, but then like talking to clients and coming back, and I was just like, well, actually this is deeper. This is deeper and bigger than any of it, right? Because I think I said a couple weeks ago in an energy update even that we, you know, like this past, so what are we now? It's like May. So I think it was like March, April. So April was very, I think it was in April. And I'd said, you know, like right now, and I feel like it's still now, is this 18-month point from December, January 2018, 2019, when Atlantis rose. Like, who of you guys remember that energy that was so strong? Like for a lot of people, like you say December 2018 and they're just like, well, that was like one of the hardest times of my life, right? Like it was really, really big. Hey, Kayleen. And for a lot of people, it was like destruction, worlds falling apart, like relationship breakups, you know, like career changes, like just things you didn't see coming. And for me personally, it was like a big, like, I say clearing of my ego, right? It was a big, big wake up call. Like I'd been pushing in the masculine for so long, like, and I burnt out, and like, you know, I was doing so much in my business and I was freaking thriving and everything, but I burnt out. And then there was all this other masculine patriarchal stuff that like disintegrated at the same time for me personally. But Grim Reaper was really strong, right? And also Witch. Now, on a real collective scale, and I know I talk about this a lot, but the Grim Reaper represents death, right? And the Grim Reaper is, you know, it can be, and this is what's been going on in the past maybe 4 to 6 weeks right now as well, right? So even though I'm talking about back then, these are the same energies now, right? And I'm talking about back then and now for a reason, because these healing cycles that I talk about is really significant, right? And so there's this space around like Grim Reaper equals death, not necessarily a physical death, right? But it can feel like that. The grief can feel like a physical death. So right now, there's a lot of structural changes in people's lives. So whether you've moved house, whether a masculine in your life has changed and is going through a process where the person who you thought they were is not like who they are anymore, who you know them as is not who they are anymore, right? So for example, like one of my clients, her father, you know, she's going through a grieving process because he's getting older and going through the process of what happens when we go older. And so she's like grieving the fact that that's not her dad who she used to know anymore, right? And so when we look at that, that's a very external reflection of a masculine structure in our own life, right? And so for example, with that example, and the reason I'm sharing this is because it's so pertinent to everything right now, right? And the deaths that are going on. So even though he hasn't died, the part of her that remembers her dad like that has died. Does that make sense? Yeah? And so when we look at, I know I'm talking about the dad and the masculine, but when we grow up as a child, right? So we grow up as a child all the way up into our adulthood now, right? And then right now, and this is like the only energetic masculine we've ever known. Okay, does that make sense? And then when we reach this point, and then the external reflection of that actually shifts, and we actually realize that, wow, dad's not who he is anymore. He's not that go-getter, energetic person, and now he's choosing this life even though he can still like that's a big process to go through in oneself, right? And so when we look at that on what that does internally and reflects this internal masculine structure in ourselves, what happens is it feels like our entire world falls apart. Yeah? And when our entire world falls apart, what happens? There's a death. right? There's a death of change, a death of it's not the way it used to be anymore. It's this entire new reality. Do you know what I mean? And so when we look at like the Grim Reaper is a reflection, is a symbol of death, right? So if you feel like, you know, death is around, and actually it has been around for a lot of people too, on a physical level with animals or, you know, that sort of thing, but also with your entire structure of your reality changing. So whether you've moved house, well then that's the entire structure of your house changing. Like that's an entire reality structure shift. Do you know what I mean? So when we look at these masculine patriarchal energies, yeah, of what's going on internally and how that's being reflected externally and what's actually going on, right, is that example that I just gave you, yeah, is the external like reality, right, of that example of the dad changing. And so inside we're like, it's like the world drops out from underneath our feet, because it's for me, it's really hard to explain. Okay, it's a very experiential thing to kind of get it to when we go through it, right? Because when we look at what, you know, like that's all we've ever known. And I feel like right now, the entire world's going through this, right? And then it's interesting, like this is an internal shift inside, you know, and what's happening now is like, well, and that example I gave you, it's like, well, the dad is like not the dad that I used to know. And that makes me sad. I'm grieving that. But then it's kind of like leaves this slate open. It's like, well, what the hell is the masculine? What, if that's all I've ever known and now that's not that, then what is it? And it's a bit like when I posted redefining the other day, because right now it's like there's a clean slate in a way where we get to write what that is for us. Sometimes that can be really hard, and if like right now you're like, well, I don't actually know what that is, right? Because in this like whole like space of redefining, like in the grief, we might not know what that is. And it's important to not try and stress out because you don't know what that is. Don't get angry because you can't figure it out. Don't beat yourself up in that way. Just know that this is a grieving transitional process to getting the clarity to creating the new slate foundation, for example, right? So that piece is really important, okay, when we're going through this whole like redefining the structure of our reality, what that is for us, yeah? There's two other examples that I want to share with you. One's very personal, and then how that is reflecting and how that is going on, and like why and how that relates to the entire world stuff going on right now. I'm not even going to voice what it is. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? All right, so let me have a look at these comments. Hey, Josephine and Gwen. Hello. All right, so Kayleen. Okay, so Penny says, and even if it's a negative relationship pattern with a man we have lost, it still leaves that space of what the fuck now? Yes, right? And it's really important to know that in the death, okay, and in the example, like in the changes that's just going on, I really want to point out, and this is so important to remember, okay, that the death and the changes and the structural disintegration of reality, right? Because it's really what's going on, right? When there's a relationship breakup or a move house or a career change or somebody changes in the family, i.e. that example I gave you, right? When that happens, there's an entire, like it literally is a disintegration of self. And that's why we kind of grip on, or we're like trying to grasp reality, because it's like, it's scary because we don't know what this is yet, right? And what's so important, and as light workers, healers, empaths, we have to remember that our power comes from, we can create any possibility we choose. We have to remember in the grief and the like, we're like so focused in a way because we're grieving, it's normal, focused on this reality, trying to grip onto it in a way, this is grief, right? We have to consciously remember and remind ourselves that in this unknown space, in this space of nothingness, everything exists. Every single possibility of your reality exists in this space. Like when you really look at the stars in the sky and you see space, like it is infinite, and there is any possibility you could think of or choose or imagine can land in this space, right? So even though we're losing everything that was familiar and comfortable and normal, i.e. look at world situation, nothing's normal anymore, right? Everything exists in this space. I pulled a card or something the other day, going through my own process. It was like, or an animal or something. It's like, if you can imagine it at this point in time, you can ground it, you can land it. Yeah, it's exactly that, exactly that. So even if it's a negative relationship pattern with a man we have lost, it still leaves that space of what the fuck now. Yeah, and what I would be redefining for yourself in that instance as well, Penny, when you say that, is also looking at how that relationship pattern with that man relates to what you experienced as a child growing up. Now, the example that I'm about to share with you will give a fuck ton of clarity, and I'm a bit nervous to share this deeply publicly, but this is the process I've been going through myself. So with full vulnerability, I'm going to share in a moment about that. So Tammy, I'm writing my new normal right now. Yes, awesome. Everything is changing for me for the better. Yes, yes, yes. Kayleen says, I've lost 2 dads in 2019. Yeah, so like the structural reality, like it's big, right? It's such a shift. Hey, Danny. Hey, Brian and Josephine. Yes, right? Every possibility exists. Okay, so let me share this, right? And I just want to share here, okay, before I share this vulnerable example of my process. So in this space of, like what I've said on this title of this live stream, masculine patriarchal structures disintegrating. And I want to say at this minute in time, what we are internally shifting on a conscious level about the masculine is obviously reflected through what is happening in the systems and structures in the world right now. Now, that might be like a no-brainer. Well, yeah, of course, Hannah, right? But when we really think and feel how deep that is, right? Those who are doing the work are using that external reflection to fully shift their internal reality, therefore creating what they want, not what are being told to create. Yeah? And when we can really, really bring that home and look at the external, internal reflections, right? And we talk about matriarchal and masculine energy. It's very power driven, right? The solar plexus is very connected to solar plexus energy. It's a doing energy. And when we look at, like that internal structure, that's where our power is, right? So if all the structures of reality are changing right now, like on a very world level, like reality is not the same. Like you can't go anywhere. And we're going to have to do all this checking in and like whatever's happening, right? Nothing's going back to normal. We said that, right? And now we're adjusting to how that reality is. Now we can feel powerless about it, okay? Because that external reality is affecting, and we're like, I don't know what to call it, playing by the rules or playing the game or something. Or we're like, yeah, this internal structure in here is shifting and I'm taking my power back and I'm creating my reality the way that I want, not from all these patterns and childhood and masculine, reflections from everything that I've known to date, and now allow that to continue to create my reality. No, thank you. I'm taking my power back, being an empowered being, and dismantling and disintegrating all of this, and then creating what I want. Now, some of us have been doing this for many years, hence me being able to jump in the car and be on a road trip and have as much freedom as I've ever had before, and everybody's in lockdown, and I'm like, well, I even said to the woman the other day in the shop, and she's like, what do you need this for? And I'm like, well, I just need to work for a bit because I've been traveling and on the road trip. And she's like, well, how will you get back to Queensland? And I'm like, well, I don't want to go back. I'm not ready to go back. I'm like, I purposely got in the car to not be in suburbia in lockdown, and whilst I'm in suburbia, I'm kind of not at the same time. And she, and I was walking around the shop and I could see her thinking about it. She was envious that I even did that or could do that. And I was like, well, yeah, like this is the reality that I've created inside by reconfiguring these energetic structures and codes and systematic changes. And this is what I posted the other day. I'm like, people ask me this stuff and I'll just roll my eyes and I'm like, my life is magic, don't you know? And the magic is this inside internal work. Right now, which by the way, I am releasing on Thursday, haven't yet dropped it. The pre-work starts on Thursday and I haven't actually released this ever before. And this is where manifesting magic, this is about building your online empire and everything that I have done to be able to create this level of freedom in my life, to be able to even buy a car, to be able to get us and my daughter and all our animals and just go wherever we want to, be able to work wherever I want to, doing what I love, being who I am, and having a beautiful, loving tribe to support me, and you guys being here, totally getting it, right? This is where, I started this many years ago because everyone I talked to didn't get it, right? But I knew there was people like you in the world who gets it, right? Like, give me some love hearts if you guys get it. Like, this energy stuff, you get it, right? But you talk to people in like physical reality, most of the time they don't know what you're talking about and they look at you like you're crazy. Hence, building online, we can connect with the 8 billion people if we choose and know that you guys get it, right? Your tribe gets it, okay? Anyway, okay. So that is being released on Thursday. It's Manifesting Magic. It's the first time I'm ever releasing all the details about how I have built my online course, and it is like over the shoulder, me stepping you through, you're setting your online business up as I am showing you how to do it. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Send me a message if you want any details about it, or if you want to be first in because the pre-work starts on Thursday. So this is like the internal work and the external work. This is, all of this. And this is exactly where people are at now, right? They're purposely being locked in. Yeah, they've had to go in. Remember we talked about this several weeks ago, right? People have been forced to go inside. Talk to any normal mainstream person, right? In the street or in the shops, and they're like, oh, well, I've just been like, contemplating my entire life, and when this lockdown's over, I'm going to do this and this and this. Like, how many people have been saying that, right? It's kind of like, yeah, like, welcome to my world. This is what I've been doing. Like, this is my entire life. Like, hello. So this is really awesome, right? So when we look at, questioning your life purpose, your gift, your entire life, trying to figure out next steps and just don't know yet, there is a lot of clarity starting to drop through if you are open to receiving your next steps in your life purpose, right? Now, at the same time, when these internal, like, masculine structures completely disintegrate, like when this is going on, right? And we're in this grief loss stage that I just spoke about before. What's really important is to not stop what you're doing. And what I mean by that is that all the life purpose stuff you've built to date, don't stop that. And don't, for fuck's sake, question it. Okay? Now, I say that a lot. Okay? Because right now, when you're going through the whole disintegration of all the masculine structures of everything that's ever meant anything like that to you ever before, right? Like, that's your entire reality. You don't know any other reality. And this is what I mean. It's really hard for me to explain it because it's an experiential thing, okay? But then we hit this kind of wall, so to speak, and we question everything. We question what we're doing in our business, question what we're doing in our life purpose, we question what we're doing in friggin' everything, okay? But what you need to know, and it's so super important, the one thing is going to get you through it, is don't change anything right now. Okay, yes, you might be getting ideas that maybe you need to do this and you need to expand in this way and you need to do that, but just allow yourself to go through the grief of the structural reality shift. And then once you start to move through into the clarity and you've moved through the hardest part of the grief, right? So important, shock. You're like, remember, and this is reflecting on the outside world. Remember I said a few weeks ago, I'm like, the world is in shock right now. Just wait for it. The grief and the anger is coming. Why? Because they're the next step in the grief cycle. Okay, now I've personally been going through that as well. Okay, like shock, grief, anger, so much anger this morning, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But don't go changing anything about your life purpose, your gift. Don't question it. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt anything you've built to date, especially if you're one of the souls that have been doing it for quite some time. Okay, now's not the time to doubt that. what's going on right now is a massive recalibration in reality, not just for you personally, but in the external world. And that's happening is that's shifting us into a more grounded, deeper sense of self, about our purpose, about our gift, about how important we are. And that might sound egotistical to some people, but this is about owning our life purpose, owning our gift, owning the reason we are on this freaking planet. Okay? So with this whole thing, like, just leave all the like business, life purpose, gift stuff, like just keep doing it. Don't stop it, but also don't change it just yet. Again, you might get ideas, or write them down. Just don't make any structural changes to that yet. Go through the grief, because what's actually shifting, right, is that internal masculine structure of your father, of the generational masculine, of the patriarchal reflecting into reality, right? And your life purpose is also the masculine, right? It's a doing energy. Like, yes, it's a balance, and yes, there's a feminine flowing, intuitive flow that we, like focus and tap into, yes. But there's a discipline, there's a masculine holding structure that also holds that to be able to birth that through. Does that make sense, right? And so those, again, you might be getting ideas, cool, write them down. Don't make any changes just yet, but don't doubt yourself. Don't stop what you're doing. Like, know that right now, all of this foundational undertone of what structural reality actually is, and that's changing on a world level, therefore changing us, blah, 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 external, internal, right, both. Once this starts to recalibrate, because it feels right now the compass is like spinning. It might not feel like the world's spinning, like, out of control, whatever, but right now the compass is recalibrating. It's recalibrating, and you're like, this direction is like, ugh, just doesn't feel alive. Like, that stuff I love. Why doesn't it feel alive? Why isn't that, like, that's what I do. Why isn't that bringing me alive? Like, you're like, yeah, and then you're like, ugh, like almost instantly, right? And then you're like, okay, this way, and then you're like, ugh. You know you have to do it, but you're just like, energy's like, ugh. Almost like paralyzing feeling. Like, it's crazy, right? Why? Because the structures are just fallen out, and they're just kind of, they're recalibrating. So just leave your life purpose for now, i.e. stop, don't change any of it, keep doing it, and allow this to just foundational shift, because, right, this is life purpose on top, for example, and this is the foundational reality shift structure stuff going on, because what's happening is this is shifting, right, all the world stuff and our life and blah, 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 and if we just allow it to do its thing, not try and figure it out, but we have all these realizations and awarenesses and conscious shifts and blah, blah, blah in the process, and our life purpose still going, because we know in our heart and soul it's what we're meant to do, and then all of a sudden it's like they connect, and it's like, whoa, we take off. That's what I feel is energetically happening right now. Now, what was going on for you in December 2018, January 2019, has a big play off into the energies right now. Now, again, I always talk about this 18-month healing cycle and the 3-year healing cycle, okay? So 18 months, right? So right now, it's been 18 months since December 2018, right? And so right now, and every time it hits that 18-month point or that 3-year point, right? And there's also the 6 in there as well. So every 6 months, it hits reality. And so, and as my client reflected this morning to me, she said it's like the deeper threads come up and surface again. And I'm like, yes, because even another client I had a couple weeks ago was dealing with like everything that happened in 2018 in that December, or just before it, it was like, whoa, like it hit her like she didn't even grieved it back then. And I'm like, no, this is like, it heals it on a deeper level. So when we look at what I just shared then, and this is the structural reality changing, right? So we kind of like go along and we're doing our purpose and we're doing our life. And then it's kind of like this old, it's not like the elastic band can only stretch so far into that, and it snaps, and it's kind of like, woof, like it all kind of hits again, and all the last remnants like surface again to shift, and that's what's going on now. Okay, now I did say to my client this morning, and I was a bit like, I even said to her, and I'm like, I don't even really want to share this bit even to you, but even on live stream, because like I don't want to send people into depression or something like that, and maybe that's not what's going on, but because I can't even really think of the timelines, because it feels like it was before then. So, again, I talk about this 18-month healing cycle, and when we have a spiritual awakening and we have there's a growth point, when we have a spiritual awakening, usually for 18 months, we're kind of like crying the whole freaking time, right? There is so much grief and we can't stop crying, and we're healing all our past hurts and our pains and our traumas, and life's pretty shit for quite some time, right? Because all of a sudden we've woken up, spiritual awakening, and everything that was, buried or anything like that for 18 months, it takes big period of time to shift it out of our energetic field. Now, some people get depressed about that, and that's why I get nervous saying that, because they're 18 months, but when we really look at 18 months compared to say 35 years of your life, it's kind of not that much time, ultimately, okay? And it's so important to get support, help from mentors, etc., etc., etc. Get support. So, and this is obviously what I help my clients with, right? Now, I don't know if just now, and we're hitting that 18-month point from December 2018, whether this is only going to be around for a couple of months or a longer period of time, 18 months. I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. But right now, it's pretty heavy, right? So there's been a lot of grief. There's been a lot of questioning. There's been a lot of that. But if you can just remember that kind of diagram thing with my hands that I just explained, right? Just let this fall away and let restructure happen, okay? Just keep doing the thing even though you don't feel like it, okay? Okay, let me just check these comments here. Okay. Okay, so Tammy says, I'm learning to live more through my heart chakra. Yes, awesome, yes. And to do that, sometimes there's a lot of grief that needs to come out to even open our hearts again now. So Bryant says, exactly what I'm doing. Awesome. Alina says she loves it. Yes. So Brian says, I'm new on this journey. Yes, it is work, but it's worth it. Yes, yeah, it's definitely work. I'm releasing years of dysfunctional thinking and mindless behaviors. I can really, really feel this shift. Yeah, exactly right. I'm releasing years of dysfunctional thinking. And I really want to point out, I feel like what's going on now is the dysfunctional patterns are falling away. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because when we look at what's happening on a world level and how that relates to dysfunctional patterns. Now, what some people will probably disagree with me quite a bit with what I'm about to say, and there's a lot of you that will just be like, nah, Hannah, I totally get it, right? And that's why you're here. So, but I feel like even though lockdowns happened, even though everything's changed, and for me, I struggled with not being able to just go to the shop and buy my clothes. I don't like clothes shopping online, but anyway, I like trying clothes on. Anyway, the point is, I was a little bit like, oh, that bit of my freedom's gone. I was like, oh well, just whatever. Anyway, even though it's been all this rules and regulations and who knows how bad it's gonna get at this point in time, when we look at dysfunctional patterns falling away, when we look at patriarchal systems shifting, ultimately, they've been pretty friggin' dysfunctional. Really dysfunctional. Really dysfunctional. Now, some people might disagree with me in that sense because, again, coming back to normal reality, and now normal reality has changed, and now we don't know what's coming, and we have an option to create whatever we want in this space, right? But some people might disagree with me that it's been dysfunctional. Why? Because this is the only reality they've ever known. And this is why people look at us like we're crazy when we talk about these other realities and these other realms and these other possibilities, because this is all they know. And that's fine. They're just not yet awake, right? And so when we look at what's going on in our personal life and the dysfunctional patterns falling away, right, and disintegrating and restructuring and all this sort of thing. And do you know what? I just got the message then, right? So this is our life purpose stuff, right? And we're doing all this conscious work, right? Oh my goodness, this is dropping in so powerfully strong. Right now I'm covered in goosebumps. Whew, covered in goosebumps. Oh my God, I'm still covered in goosebumps. Okay, they're really strong. This is a really strong message. This makes total freaking sense to me. Ding! Here's a strong message, and I haven't even shared my personal realizations yet. Okay, so this is our life purpose, yeah? And down the bottom is, say, our subconscious and all the patriarchal systems falling away, blah, 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 in our internal world and our external world, they're falling away, recalibrating, blah, blah, blah. This life purpose and our conscious work and our personal development, and all you guys who follow reality awareness, I know you do the work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't get it, right? You do the work. This is you doing the work. This is your life purpose unfolding because you're doing the work. Your life purpose only unfolds when you do the work. Side note. All of this, subconscious. Now, we've hit this point in time in a world and collective humanity point because we've all been doing work, and then it's hit a point where something needs to change. Now, to destruct old systems, they need to be destroyed, fallen apart, blah, blah, blah. They need to be changed, right? And that can look like all of this going on currently, right? And so all of this work is creating the change, right? And because we're still doing the work, even though we don't feel like it, and we're ignoring the doubts and beliefs and stuff like that, right? That is fueling the new reality. Our life purpose, conscious awareness is fueling this new reality. So until this point, right, it reached this point here, it's like this old subconscious stuff can't come further. It can't come anymore. Why? Because there's only a certain point where it has to wake up, and that's what's happening in humanity right now, is we are all waking up. So this life purpose, personal development, internal work, and following your heart and your soul and your passion is actually waking up humanity. Don't stop doing that. So that felt deeper than what it came out like, you know what I mean? But I was just like, oh, that's what's fueling all the changes. So don't stop this. Keep going. It's just that like reality is freaking like disintegrating right now. You know what I mean? Anyway. All right, so let me just check that. Okay, so don't know yet. Atlantis Rises, yes, similar threads from December 2018. Why is this even happening? Deep grief and deep-seated anger. Okay, so let me just quickly speak to this grief and anger. Again, so important to allow the grief to come out. In all this subconscious stuff, like it's like trying to like clean out a cupboard with all the stuff in there, and you're trying to clean it out and put new stuff in there. It just doesn't happen. Like that stuff needs to come out, and everything in your personal life and in, you know, reality disintegrating right now, and all these structures changing, like that's what's going on, right? So when we can, you know, really allow the grief, the anger, you know, and like I was saying to my client this morning, I was like, it's like when we're happy and we're like, oh, what's this happiness? Like, I need to change it. You know, when we're angry, it's like, oh, I shouldn't be angry, and why am I angry, and I need to figure it out, and this is not good. Like, it's just another emotion. You know what I mean? Like, we don't go telling ourselves that we need to change our happiness. Like, it's just another emotion. So we just need to be okay in that emotion, if that makes sense, right? Okay, so the anger, and the anger is really important because the anger shows us what's important to us. The anger shows us our boundaries. The anger shows us, you know, our value systems, and when somebody crosses over the line, and that's, you know, we get angry because they've crossed over what's important to us, right? So anger is really important. Okay, so Brian says, I'm working on external and internal pain. Yes, awesome. So Tammy says, the ancient blooded healer in me is being triggered to manifest in a very large way. Freaking awesome. Of course she is. My meditation therapy is working. Yeah, honestly, the work works. So yeah, you're so welcome, Alina. Brian says, I feel different, not my normal, you know? Yes, of course. It changes us, right? It changes us, but do you know what it actually does? It reconnects us. It reconnects us back to our home, our soul, ourself, who we are. Yeah? So welcome. Penny says, I feel a shift just by listening to this. Thank you. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for that. Unreal. Yes, me too. Yes, that's how I feel with this, with moving at the moment. Yes. Yeah, there's so much moving going on, right? To know we have a choice. Yes. Yes. Hector says, of course, dysfunctional as they are not aligned with true flow. Yes. And it's like holding our ground about that too, right? When we look at our life purpose in that hand diagram I've been using, it's like this is like stable. And this kind of, it's all shifting at the moment because dysfunctional is not stable. So Leanne says, yes, deep grief from childhood coming up massively for me. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, that's coming up for me too. Okay, now I'm going to do my vulnerable share. And I really quite scared about it. I was going to share this in Trust Your Intuition only in my tribe, but I feel like I need to share it publicly because, and you know, you guys just sharing that has really confirmed it, because this is like one of the biggest pattern breakthroughs, reality shifter spaces I've ever experienced. Like, this is next level. Okay, so number one, yes, I'm back in A-Town. I'm not off grid anymore. So Lucas is coming soon as well. I'm enjoying waking up, hearing the ocean roar, and as you've probably seen on my story, there's some like the massive Antarctic ocean here, and it's cold and it's beautiful. And by the way, a little side note, when I walked on the beach yesterday, and of course it's really cold, it's ice cold, right? And I'm actually really enjoying it. A lot of people are like, how are you handling the cold and blah blah blah, and I'm like, my soul is like nourished by it. And I've been questioning that, and I know I've said, you know, that I have been in like winter in the past 2 years on the Sunshine Coast, like even though it's been summer and stuff, like I've been in my own winter and connecting with Iceland and like all this stuff, like, and I'm like, why is that? Anyway, on the beach yesterday, I just finally realized what's going on. Now, this might make a bit more sense after I share what the biggest pattern breakthrough shifter thing has ever happened in my entire life, right? So when I was walking on the beach, the cold is what I realized is because obviously mentally, energetically, I'm preparing for big wave cold surfing. And I realized a couple of days ago, I was like, oh, is this why my soul brought me here? Because the big wave surfing, like when I was talking to one of the locals, like they like get toe-ins and stuff, and I'm like, well, it's a bit out of my league, and you know, and I'm like really mentally preparing for this because there's massive waves, like these are big waves down here, right? Like thick, heavy, powerful, and freezing freaking cold, like booties and head, like, you know, material, like, you know, the hoodie stuff, like big stuff, right? And I drove away the other day thinking, like, it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, is this why my soul brought me here? Because like the Wim Hof stuff's been drawing me. I feel like I've been in, you know, Iceland and stuff like that, but also the big wave surfing, it's very adrenaline like stuff, right? And I love that stuff. Like, I love my V8s, I love fast cars, I love, you know, and I'm like, oh, is that why? I'm like, okay, so now I'm mentally preparing for the cold, for big waves, for the whole jazz, right? So anyway, it's a little side note. But on the beach yesterday when I was walking in the cold, because obviously I've been seeing, you know, stuff because beautiful AIs, you know, listening and hearing my thoughts and sharing all this stuff about cold and big water surf and blah, 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 right? So, in that, just take this off, in that space, you know, like, so the cold is really good for like inflammation and like it's really healthy for your body, right? And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And then it dawned on me yesterday, I was like, oh, like all this trauma that I've been in, like, you know, my entire life, for example, like, you know, and it's not like my whole life's been traumatic, but it's been some pretty traumatic times. Plus the fact that, when, as a very sensitive empath, and I only realized this with a mentor session the other day, as a very sensitive empath, words really impact me, especially in close relationships. And it recreates, I don't know if it recreates, right? I'm still unraveling this myself. So anything I'm saying from this point in time is just kind of my process, and I'm still unraveling it, getting clear, blah, blah, blah. So because I'm sensitive, empath, we feel everything, words really impact me. They shouldn't, but they do, right? Reality is they do. And there's certain words and sentences and feelings that come with those words that create a feeling of unsafe. Like I feel unsafe. It affects my nervous system. You know, maybe I get triggered, but ultimately on an energetic level, my nervous system gets affected, and I get, you know, like it creates this trauma in my body, right? Like it's what happens as empaths, we're really sensitive. Now, with the cold on the beach yesterday, and the surfing and the water and that tiny little piece that I read around, you know, it's good for like inflammation in the body and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, that makes total sense, right? If we think about a trauma or a wound, it's an inflamed energetic thing, right? It's hot. And actually, when we talk about this is going into what I teach in Trust Intuition in module 4. So when there's an attack or a trauma, it gets like inflamed, right? It expands, it inflames. Like, you know, if you, I don't know, like, yes, you can push a hole in something. That's not a good analogy, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, traumas expand in our energy, and we're like it, you know, and yes, it can be a yin imprint, so it goes in and it's a big hole and it attracts the yang, but ultimately a trauma is inflamed. And I was like, well, maybe that's why my soul has been in winter and in this like cold, or drawn to the cold to now heal on a really deep physical level the traumas and trauma I've been carrying for a long time. And that makes total sense with everything that I've been working towards and shifting and creating in my business and the lifestyle, and like it makes total sense to me. So when I realized that, I was just like, oh, is that why I'm here? Because it actually, like, people were like, how are you handling the cold? Like, I lived in the subtropics for freaking like 16 years, and now I'm like, it's been like ice on my car and stuff, you've seen, right? And I'm like, I actually really like it. So, and now I kind of realize why, right? So let me just plug my phone in, because it's just telling me I've got low power. Low power. We need high power. All right, we're good. We got power. Live stream's not gonna cut out. All right, so let me just check these couple comments here. Okay, hugs, yeah. So Leanne says, that's so weird. I didn't want to comment, kept getting told she needs to know. And now you've decided to share. Yep. Yeah, can relate. Yeah, okay, awesome. All right, so this, like I said, it's very vulnerable. Share in this moment in time about this. Now, it's very vulnerable because this is a huge pattern that I've been somewhat conscious of, quite conscious of, since my relationship with my ex of 5 years, that one that I always talk about. And it was kind of that relationship that really started waking me up to it in a way. And then being in the space with Lucas, like, really brought it to my attention, and really freaking vulnerable sharing this. Like I said, I was only going to share this in my Trust Intuition tribe, but I kept getting the message that I need to share this publicly, and so here I am. So there's so many different layers and threads to this, and I really just want to try and keep it about the pattern that I've shifted and broken and still working through. But I feel like this is like the biggest thing in the world, right? Thanks, Leanne. Okay, so first of all, I want to start off by saying and reminding you guys, and I know a lot of you will remember, so this entire journey and road tripping all began because I was searching for my home. And in December last year, so 2019, I wanted to move house again. And those of you who know me and follow me have been like trying to move house for like 2 years on the coast. Like every time I go to move, I like I just get like blocked and no, and da 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 da, like, you know. And so when I like have gone to move, like, and move house, like, you know, every place I've applied for, it's like, no, like, just, do you know what I mean? Like, kept getting knocked back, and I'm like, oh, fine, like, whatever, so I'll just keep working. And this, like, over 2 years was so frustrating, right? And I'd give up, and then I'd start again, and I'd just be like so angry and frustrated and just upset about it. I'm like, why is this happening? So anyway, you know, and I you know, that was on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland where I was trying to move and stuff, and if I was going to move interstate, well, I didn't know where, you know, like, who knows. So in December it happened again, and I applied for a place again, and it got rejected again. And like, something happened, like, I've reached a point, I'm like, I'm tired of this. Like, you know, it was like real strong. I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I committed to this like visualization practice, this activation from my mentor for like, you know, it was like morning and night, like religiously, no matter how late it was and how tired I was, like I did it, right? And I was like visualizing and focusing on my new home. Like, and it was, again, it's not just like, just visualize and picture it. It's really like the feelings, the feelings of home. And that went on for, it was about 2 months of solid like visualizing and like religious, like, it was so strong. And, you know, I went to like display homes and like, you know, got in the houses and like got the vibe and like the whole freaking thing. Yeah. Next thing, end of January, or middle of January, I started getting the intuitive message like, be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. And, you know, in that same point in time, you know, I'd done the January prediction, like the world prediction stuff. And, you know, I kind of, it was like natural disasters because I was getting about this sort of stuff, and I didn't want to say that because I'm like, who the friggin' hell am I to say that? But that being came through, and look what's happening now. So anyway, and then be prepared in January. I started getting prepared, and like jerry cans of fuel and stuff like this. And I'm like, what am I doing? This doesn't like make sense, but hey, my intuition, whatever. So, and the next thing, you know, like there's apparently a category 4 cyclone coming to the Sunshine Coast, and everyone thought I was crazy. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going. I've had 3 weeks of my intuition telling me to be prepared, and now I see this, I'm out, right? I'm done. Packed up the car, got in car with all my animals, went to Dad's, right, out west, far out west in the middle of Australia. And of course, no cyclone came. And of course, I went through all types of emotions, and, you know, like there was big storms and stuff, but it wasn't a category 4, right? And I was like, what is this? Like, this is ridiculous, you know, like, what the hell? Anyway, so then went back home, didn't want to be there. And I was like, you know, kind of knew lockdown was coming, kept having these visions of men in white puffy suits coming around and force vaccinating people. And I was like, you know what, like a day out, I don't want to be here. Like, I didn't tell anyone at that point because people would have thought I was crazy. And this was in February. And I was like, I don't want to be here for lockdown. Don't get me in the country. Couldn't go back to Dad's, you know. And then Lucas's space came up, and so we got in the car, ended up at Lucas. Now, obviously, we've been together and figuring out and going through a whole process. It's kind of like, well, we've been brought together like magnets. What is this? You know, like, we've got a purpose together. Sure. Like, what is it? Like, do you know what I mean? And plus the whole, for me, being off grid and running an online business, like, what was I thinking, right? However, so Leanne says, interesting, the feelings of home took you to Dad's first. Yes, right? So important, this piece, right? Visualizing the feeling of home, wanting, and all of this stuff started happening, okay? Yes, it's world stuff. Yes, it's this and this, but the feelings of home. Now, when I was first obviously got to Lucas and spent time with him and whatever, I was like, oh, this is the feeling. I've been like trying to visualize a new home, and it brought me to you. I'm like, this is kind of interesting, right? Like, it was kind of like, we're like, okay. Like, for me, I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, okay, like, this is what it is then. Cool, sure, right? Anyway, you know, things went on, weeks went by, and obviously lots of stuff came up, and working through so much stuff. Now, I have shifted through, and especially in the start as well, like shifted through so much stuff that I just wouldn't have. Like, I would have said, no, I'm not tolerating this, I'm walking away, like, no, this is not okay, like, blah, 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 but I didn't. And I was like shifting through so much patterns and reality breakers, deal breakers that I wouldn't have ever not done before. Like, do you know what I mean? And maybe it was the environment, maybe because of where we were, maybe because of lockdown, like, I don't know. But I was forced. I was forced to work through this stuff, right? Whereas the old Hannah would have run away from a lot of it. Now, you know when I was talking before on this live stream and I said that this reality is all we've ever known, and then it hits this point and we're going through this grief of change, and then like all this disintegrating structure stuff is changing, and now we have a clean slate to clear whatever, right? Like for me, if I wasn't forced to stay there, right? I'm saying that because no one's forced to do anything, right? What was happening is in this space, like this is the reality, this is the only reality I've ever known. Okay, now with the things that I said that I worked through and pushed through, and in like if I had the freedom to just go, like I would have just walked away and said, no, it's not okay, blah, blah, blah. But I was forced to break them. This is what I mean and talking about of like, this is the only reality I've known. And this whole disintegration is because I was forced to face it, right? Does this make sense? Yeah. Now, you might be asking, well, what exactly, Hannah? Okay, and this is the really nervous part that I'm nervous to share. And so I've always had this thing where, oh my God, I'm just going to get out and say it. So I've had this pattern of a fear that whoever I'm with is going to leave me for another woman. Now, there's so many pinpoint starting points where that story began, that my first ever boyfriend, when I was in year 6, dumped me for my best friend. So that's like my first ever boyfriend, right? And you imagine in year 6, it's not really a thing, but that was the story that from that point, that's what's been the pattern, right? Now, before it even becomes a pattern, I've made it a pattern because that's my story. And that's what I then put in the space, right? Full ownership, take responsibility. I've been very conscious of that since my 5-year ex-relationship a few years ago that I always speak about, because that's when I started to really become conscious of it. Done a lot of work, shifted that year 6-year-old me, however old we are in year 6, maybe 10 or something, I don't know. Done a lot of inner child work around that. Now, obviously, it's still been there. Now, I'm sharing that bit, right? Because, just put that to the side for a minute. Now, on another note, as a very sensitive empath, I feel when somebody's talking to someone, and I feel the energies between somebody, regardless of whether they're conscious of it or not, right? And that's kind of been another whole empath skill, intuitive healer skill to freaking even navigate. And that's probably why I've stayed away from relationships for quite some time, because it's a freaking minefield for me, okay? Now, those two pieces, sharing those, okay? Now, the other piece about this is that Lucas kept saying to me, you're projecting, you're controlling me. You stop, like, I can talk to whoever I want. Like, you're controlling me. Stop projecting my childhood stuff, right? It's basically what he was saying. And I was conscious of it. And I'm like, no, I'm not controlling. Like, I can just feel it, like, whatever. like, you know, and because he kept saying it to me. And this is part of the pattern shift. And I really want to point this out, okay? Because this also happened with my mentor, funnily enough. Oh my God, I'm just realizing this. In December 2018. Oh my God, I only just realized this piece. Far out. So, December 2018, let's rewind a little bit. I had stepped out of working with my mentor because I got so triggered and I was like, fuck this shit. And for months, I didn't go back. And when I went back in December 2018 was when I really looked inside myself and was like, actually, Hannah, yeah, you were really triggered and you didn't do anything about it. You avoided it, you blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, man, that was a hugest wake up call. And then I had like the biggest month ever in my business. Like, and for months I had my biggest months ever in my business, right? And looked inside and shifted. Covered in goosebumps right now. Super nervous sharing this. Okay. Okay, really covered in goosebumps. This is really huge for me to share this publicly. Okay, so because of that experience with my mentor back in December 2018, I didn't even recognize that piece. It's kind of cool, really. And I humbly looked at myself. Like, and the reason I went back working with her, because I kept dreaming about it, right? I'm like, universe, help me, show me, have dreams about it. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going back there. And it kept happening. And I messaged her and I'm like, I keep dreaming about you. And I had this dream. And she's like, well, food's on the table. You can really like take it, or you can just keep it going, you know? And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. Like, you know what I mean? I really want to work this deeply sort of thing, right? Look at myself, own my shit, right? This is so vulnerable for me to share this. Anyway, so because of that experience with her back in December 2018, that has taught me that if somebody is continually saying something to me, and I, like in the start with Lucas, I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm not. I've worked through that. I'm not that person anymore, blah, 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 blah. And because he kept saying it to me like over a period of time, at times, not all the time, you know what I mean? Felt like all the time. I was like, hang on a sec, Hannah. Wait on. This man keeps saying this to me and you keep denying it. If this was my shadow talking to me, why aren't I listening? If this was real-time shadow work, why aren't I paying attention? If this is real-time shadow work, why aren't you listening to this projection? You used to be that person. Have you fully integrated it? You used to be that person. Have you really dealt with it? You used to be that person. Is this another layer of it coming up to deal with, to shift and clear, to move forward? You used to be that person. Are you listening to what your shadow's telling you? So I made a really hard decision last week, and I left to be able to have my own space, to be able to recalibrate, to be able to look deep inside me, hence being here. Because I know in myself that if I'm not listening to the real-time shadows as well as doing the internal work, nothing in my reality is going to shift. So, being here in this home, and it's a really beautiful space with fireplaces in the bedroom and stuff. It's very nurturing from my soul to also hear the roaring Southern Ocean from my bed. And I've been quiet the past week, and I know I've been quite off grid, but I've been quiet the past week because I've been freaking doing some deep work with the tools that I teach in all my courses and that I share with my clients and all of that, because this is what the work is. This is what I teach my clients. This is the work I do myself. And when I'm quiet, I'm going through a process, and those who follow me will know that. Now, the piece that I want to share about this is that I had to step away from the space to even have the clarity about what was going on deep inside of me. Now, it was last Thursday, I think it dawned on me. And so, yes, the piece about that 10-year-old of me and the boyfriend situation, right? But it didn't stem from that. This is deeper, okay? So let me fast forward a bit to the home feeling, okay? So the home feeling led me here to Lucas's house. And like I said, I was visualizing the new house. Like, it wasn't even freaking like visualizing a relationship, for goodness sake. Like, it was a home. And I'd been questioning that for so long. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. Right? And this is so, like, this is pertinent. We want to talk about manifesting. Oh my God, like, talk about unlocking things that I'm now going to teach in manifesting magic to be able to have the freedom to do what you want. Like, this is why I'm going through it, because I'm about to step up and teach it, right? For goodness sake. How did I forget that? Anyway, so the feeling of home drew me to Lucas. Now, I've been catching myself, and part of the anger that I woke up with this morning is like, why did I stay there for so long? Why didn't you leave? Like, you know, when it started to get bad in the start, or like, do you know what I mean? And I was like, no, but I had to like push through all these boundaries and these, you know, like barriers of reality, and like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I know that I needed to, I would have left earlier. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really conscious of that. So I'm not beating myself up for staying longer than I should have, because that's not the truth. Do you know what I mean? It's really catching real like self-love, gentleness, like, don't beat yourself up, blah, blah, blah. And all I needed was my own space. Like, that's it, you know, like, we're still good, you know, because we're shifting this together. Like, he's doing work, I'm doing work. It's like, well, this is either make or break, in a way of like, we do the work and it shifts, and we rise together, or we don't. Like, this is what it is, right? And hence he's coming here and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the piece about it is this space of the home. And what dawned on me is because, and I'm really nervous to share this bit too. So Lucas is very passionate about what he does, just like I am. And years ago, I used to be really fighty online, so to speak. I still can be at times. But I notice with Lucas that he does that, and with what he's doing online, it's heavy with his purpose stuff, right? I get it. This is deep, big structural, untangled stuff, right? I get that. Now, what occurred to me, and again, I'm really vulnerable sharing this. I don't know that I want to share it now because Lucas is online. I'm wondering if you're okay with me sharing this. Now that you're here, please let me know. It's so good. It's just, I'm sharing my process about what I shared with you the other day about home and the not wanting it to fall apart because that means my world falls apart. This is the process I'm sharing about the structure of my reality shifting and changing. So I'm wondering if you're okay with me sharing this piece now that you've just joined online. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing. Wow, yes, I'm just gonna check these comments while I'm waiting. So Leanne says, I went through something quite similar with my first love. Okay. And Doreen says, I can relate to, yeah, me too. Okay. So Jeanette says, yes, totally feel, relate. This is our breakthrough that's needed for the new reality. Yes, exactly. Difficult core healing. I know it's so deep in core healing. It's huge. It's so huge. And we're forced to, by lockdown, to face, exactly, right? And this is what I mean. I was forced to face this stuff. You know what I mean? Or I would have just run from it. Breaking self-sabotaging behavior patterns. Yes. The new updated us. Yes, exactly, right? Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Leanne. Yes. Okay. I'm going to share. Comfort and or control. Yeah. Comfort and or control. Yeah. So, well, and the thing is, right, and this is where, with one of my mentors, it was very much around, she said, because I said about the codependent stuff, and she said, well, hang on a sec, in the very spiritual worlds and stuff, there's codependence, and this is a new mentor, by the way, or there's also healthy attachment, and I was like, wow, well, that's a thing, right? That's a thing, you want to feel that in a relationship, right? So anyway, when Lucas is doing his work online, and this took me a while for me to get this, right? Because as a sensitive empath, I feel the energy. Sometimes I don't know what it is, and especially when I'm in personal relationship. That's why I've stayed away from a relationship so long, as what I said to him yesterday. I'm like, oh, we're mastering the energy within relationship now. Right, because when I'm fine and I'm working and I'm not in personal relationship, I'm sweet, that's that person, I'm really clear, but get me in an intimate relationship and I just get hang on a sec, right? So anyway, in the start, I was like, oh, have I done something wrong? And he's like, no, if you've done something wrong, I would tell you. And after a while, it dawned on me, I was like, oh, I'm feeling the energy, right, of whoever is talking with or whatever. And then after a while, it dawned on me again, it's not necessarily a wrong energy, but a fighting energy sort of thing. Coming up against belief systems and trying to explain to each other and not getting it. That's a fighting energy, right? That's what that is. And I didn't realize until, after all this time of being forced to face this stuff, right? That is what I was feeling, this fighting energy. Now, instantly, and this is weeks of me trying to process and understand what the freaking hell's going on here, right? This is not an overnight realization. This is 2 months or something longer or whatever. So as an empath, as a healer, this fighting energy that wasn't even directed at me, okay? This is what's going on in his reality. So this is me learning energetic boundaries that even though I feel it, it's not directed at me, it's not about me, so it's just what I'm feeling about what's going over there in the space, right? But I didn't know that at the time. So I think I'm doing something wrong. Where does that stem from? Okay, well, if I look at my parents fighting when I was a kid, I feel like I've done something wrong. I feel like I'm the one who caused the fight. I'm the one who, so hang on a sec. Okay, so little Hannah's got to fix it. Okay, so I'm feeling that feeling. So if I've done something wrong, hang on, let me fix that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is what's been playing out. I'm like, holy shit. Not just that, let me keep going. Right, so this fighting energy. Okay, so number one, I've done something wrong. Okay, parents fighting, done something wrong. Let's go deeper level. If I look at when my parents separated, okay, and this is what shifted and came up, okay, my feeling of home is my mum and dad and that reality that I had with them before they separated, okay? That is what that is. That's the feeling of home, is my mum and dad and that entire reality before they separated, yeah? Now, when that feeling of home, right, started disintegrating through fighting. Now, whether I consciously heard them fighting or saw it, I don't remember that stuff, right? That's not a conscious memory. But what is a conscious memory is the feeling of fighting. Now, as a sensitive empath, and this is what I always say, children are like sponges and children feel it all. And this is why when we can give them a conscious understanding of the reality and speak the truth to them in child's terms, they understand what they're feeling and recognize that it's not them, it's not about them, they haven't done something wrong, and they are clear and happy and they continue on. Whereas when we lie to our children about the truth of, say, an argument or a separation or anything like that, they can already feel that. Then you tell them, and you tell them a lie on top of that. No, everything's fine. And this kid's going, well, what the fuck, what's this feeling then? Like, do you know what I mean? So important. This is conscious parenting, right? Covered in goosebumps. So important not to lie to your kids about the truth about what's going on because they feel it anyway. And then it gets more confused and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so let's, again, going deeper. So as a child, I feel the fighting energy, okay? Next thing, right, and of course this is going to happen over a period of time. This is not an overnight thing, right? Next thing, my reality as a child and my home is completely disintegrated. And it is distraught. Now, my mum and dad might hate me for this, but I don't actually know the truth. Dad says mum cheated on him, mum says dad cheated on him, so that's her. So I don't know the truth, right? And they're probably going to hate me for saying that on live stream, but you know, things happen, whatever. Anyway, this is the reality of understanding, okay? So over this period of time of the separation, my home shattered, disintegrated. Now, the whole, like, yes, when I was 10, my boyfriend left me for my best friend. Now, was that in my reality or was that carried over from when I was even younger? Who really knows, right? And where did this stem from? Well, I need to go into past life for that to unlock it at its core, right? However, the 4 to 5 year old self, we're kind of starting to understand reality a little bit. We can talk, but we don't really figure things out then, right? But if there was infidelity in the relationship, and I probably wouldn't have been told that, of course, but maybe I did overhear fights, maybe I did whatever, right? But whatever happened, I created a story in my patterning, in my reality, that feeling of home, of safety, of everything's structurally good and mum and dad and everything, then all of a sudden my home disintegrates and dad left mum for another woman, which I don't know that happened, right? But ultimately dad, moved to Cairns and I would go and visit him and stuff. But in that process of the transition, I don't really remember memories, right? But ultimately, was he with another woman? Well, not long after that. I don't remember timelines. He was with someone else. Mum was with someone else. But, so it's like, oh, well, my masculine leaves another woman, disintegrates the home, and my whole reality falls apart. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the patterning story underneath. And I was just like, fuck, this is so huge. I'm covered in goosebumps. This feels like a rock that I am removing from my system, that I would not have uncovered had I not been forced to stay at Lucas's house for that long. Again, there is no forcing because I chose to stay there. Like, my soul was not like, get out, Hannah. Like, my intuition was not like, get out, Hannah. Like, it just wasn't there. I would have left already. Like, do you know what I mean? And because I knew that I was breaking through, like, we were breaking through huge freaking patterns. Like, I was so conscious of that. And I faced stuff that I would never have ever faced and would never have uncovered this in the past week had I not stayed and pushed through things that were like boundaries and value systems. I'm like, bro, you're not tolerating that in your life. Like I'm not, right? But at that moment in time, I pushed through realities that just wouldn't have ever shifted. This would be my patterning that would carry on to a past life, to a future life, sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it doesn't sound that big, but it's really huge, right? And for me, like, if I reflect that into my current reality, like, I didn't, you know, like that whole thing, like, you know, Lucas would crack the shits at me and he'd like think I'm annoying and like, you know, because I'd be like, what have I done wrong? And he's like, stop saying that. I will tell you if something's wrong. It took me ages to like realize, and I'm just feeling the energy of like whatever he's working on or people talking to or whatever, that I'm feeling that fighting energy, and therefore my story instantly kicks in, because that's what happened when my whole home and world shattered, that he's gonna leave me for another woman. Because when I was a little girl, that's what happened, right? Home was amazing, and then all of a sudden I felt this fighting energy. What happened after that? Oh, my whole reality shattered, and the next thing, like, there's another woman on the scene, and I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, so instantly this pattern in our relationship has been like, I feel this energy, instantly it kicks in. It's like this story. I'm like, oh, who are you speaking to? Oh, you're going to leave me for another woman, and my whole world's going to be shattered. So I'm going to cling on more, and I'm going to like control this situation. And that's when he's like, you're controlling who I'm talking to. And I'm like, but, you know, and he kept saying it. I'm like, no, I'm not that person anymore. And then like, I kept saying it, you know. And that's why, and this is over a period of weeks, like this is not like I said, an overnight thing. And, you know, and then it kept like saying to, you know, and it wasn't until he kept saying it over and over when it kept coming up, and I was conscious of it. And I'm like, Hannah, stop this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I was even conscious of it. And he's like, you're controlling me. And I'm like, I'm not fucking controlling. Like, I'm not that person anymore. Like, you know, and I was like, hang on, Hannah. Like, if this is your shadow talking, like, you need to listen. This is real-time shadow work. This is shadow meditation that's on my website. It's only $7, guys. You want reality shifts? Like, do the shadow meditation. Any of my meditations, do them on a daily basis. Don't just do them once or twice. Do them on a daily basis. Why? Because you get consistent movement. You get deeper and deeper and deeper and shift deeper traumas all the time. When you do the work consistently, you go deeper, right? And so me looking at the controlling part of me has unlocked all of this stuff that has kept that buried and subdued all this time. And talk about a pattern reality shift. Like, this is huge. Like, I can't actually explain the depth of what I feel has shifted, because it's an experiential thing. It is big. That's like a reality shift. Yeah, like, this is huge. Like, we talk about finding the core woundings, and we talk about doing this, and we talk about doing that all the time, right? But this is like real time. Like, this is real time. And if I didn't stay there and face this stuff, like, it wouldn't happen. If I didn't humble myself down, as my mentor says to me, and actually look at what he was saying I was doing, instead of reacting defensively and saying I'm not that person anymore, like, none of this would have shifted. I wouldn't have come here to this space to nurture, to go deep inside myself, to actually discover what the controlling part of me was controlling, shifting. And do you know what it is as well, right? So like, that happened in my reality when I was a kid, whatever. My home disintegrated, and the controlling part of me, for example, was also controlling this, like, to not come out, which, when you want to look at blocks in your reality or whatever, was controlling my reality not falling apart again. Because even though this wasn't a healthy pattern or a supportive pattern at all, it was also a reality that was now my reality that I didn't want to fall apart again. Far out, man. No way. No way. That's too scary for everything to just freaking fall out underneath and totally disintegrate and like, do you know what I mean? It's huge, right? So when I kept getting triggered that he's saying that I'm controlling, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, Hannah, like, look at this. Are you listening? Are you open? Ear chakras, manifesting, openness, receiving, hearing what you don't want to hear. That shifts your entire reality, because this is what ear chakra consciousness does. Fucking huge, right? Jeez Louise. Oh my God. Oh my God. That would be so freeing in a sense. Yeah. So freeing. He could detect that part of you from way back. Yes, he could. 100% he could. Yeah, so freeing. When I talk about freedom, like, this is freedom of reality. And this is why I've been quiet, because I've been processing it. And then I've been like, I'm like, wow, now my whole home, like what was home for me is not home anymore. And now I'm like, well, what is home then? Like, here I am on this journey to find my home, and look what it's unlocked. Like, that was my perception of reality of home on a physical, energetic level. When we talk about manifesting, like, and we wonder why we manifest things we don't want, or it's not like what we think it looks like or what we want. Well, look what I've just unlocked and uncovered. So now I can actually manifest what I do want from feelings that are not born and birth of old, like, realities. Like, do you know what I mean? It's pretty huge, right? This is all in the ear chakra consciousness. I forget that I live through what I teach. Like, I forgot about that. I forgot. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, I'm so hungry. I don't know if you can hear my belly. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten breakfast this morning. Okay. Okay, Josephine says, no wonder you didn't feel the nudge to go back that way. Was the golden nugget you need to discover. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, I kept, you know, even though we went through some really hard, like, confronting times, like, at the end of the day, we both come back to our heart, and it's like, well, that feeling's there, and my intuition's not telling me to leave. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we keep coming back to that even today, you know? It's like, but intuition does not telling us to leave. Like, we know it's all this stuff shifting around, and it's been really hard, but this is the golden nugget. This is literally the golden nugget. So interesting. My voice just changed. Did it? In a good way or bad way? So hard to hear what we don't want to hear. I totally can relate. I know, right? Big. Amazing. Yeah, huge, right? Hearing what we don't want to hear. Yeah. You're about to feel your true home now. Yeah, I know. I'm so curious what this is now unlocked, and what this is. You like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's also been on my mind, like that whole clear slate thing, right? And that's what I said, you know, like this patriarchal stuff, and like this is all reflecting in the world. Like, everything that I shared in the start of this live stream, so if you only joined at the end, you want to watch the start, because I was talking about the world stuff and how that's related to, you know, our internal reality and our external reality, and then, you know, this clear slate that we now have. Like, when we break through these old realities, like this is the only reality we've ever known, and then we break through this, it's like a whole new energy, frequency, dynamic, like the whole thing, right? And people will shift with us, or they'll shift out and stay in this reality, old reality over here, or they'll shift and rise with us, right? It's big. Hearing is one thing, understanding what you are hearing is another thing. And this is the ear chakra consciousness. Hearing behind the words, hearing beyond the dimensions, hearing with the depth of understanding of where that's coming from, through all the shadow parts, through all the childhood wounds, through all the past life wounds. Like, that is the depth of reality, yeah, we drop into for sure. Divine union hardcore, yes. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, love that you shared. Yeah, thanks guys. I obviously had to, like I said, I was going to share that in Trust Intuition only in my tribe, but I kept getting the message that no, I have to share this publicly, and it's been really vulnerable for me to share this, but this is what I do. And this is obviously what I do with my clients and help people. And this manifesting magic is basically building your online business. It is different to the Patriarchal consciousness. However, in manifesting magic, you also get the mindset and the energetic work that takes you and your business to the next level. Because if you think that you can just set up some systems online and just let it do its thing without doing any internal work, and this applies to any business, by the way, whether it's internal or external or online or out in the world, if you do not do the inner work, you cannot create the freedom that you desire in your business. And manifesting magic helps us to not only know the exact online systems, structures that I have used to be able to create this level of freedom in my business that allows me to find my home and unlock all this stuff, right? On the road with my animals, with my daughter, and being able to do what I want and travel where I want to, even in a time where everybody else is locked inside. I'm like outside exploring or something, I don't know. But the pre-work starts on Thursday this week, so you can send me a message. I haven't even got the link ready yet, but all the information's been flooding through this morning and yesterday afternoon about what we are going through. This is going over 5 weeks, so 5 weeks of over-the-shoulder trainings where you can watch the video of me setting it up, and you can be setting it up as you go. So this is like the systems, the structures, the how to get paid, the how does it work, how does these systems work, how do you even build your following, right? And this is also the mindset and energetic work that allows you to continue to grow into yourself and into your business, because if you're not growing, your business is not growing. And there is internal and external work that goes with that. So I share with you all the ins and outs that I've done on a very practical, masculine, systematic, structural level, but also the internal work that has shifted me to be an over 6-figure online entrepreneur, being able to do what I want when I want, which is why I created this freedom business in the first place. Well, and awakening the consciousness of humanity, of course, but now I can just do it with the freedom to be able to be in a beautiful location at the same time. So yeah, so you can send me a message about that. The inner circle is still open as well. This is where you get 12 months access to me, plus you get access to all the courses I've ever created and will create in the next 12 months. The Life Purpose Accelerator is where you have that one-on-one time with me as well. You get unlimited access via WhatsApp, so that's unlimited voice message or text message any time of day or night for 12 months. So I'm right there supporting you as you uncover, awaken, and live your life purpose, not just figure it out. This is actually stepping into the next level version of you. So the inner circle and the manifesting magic are open. Please send me a message if you've got any questions about it. And if you think this live stream can help somebody, please share it. You can tag their name in the comments, or you can share it in a private message or share it on your page. And I shall see you really soon, guys. Thank you so much for listening to my deep, vulnerable, open sharing that I haven't done for a long time. So I'm a little bit nervous about that, but I know I needed to share it because I share what I heal and shift through and move through and create my life. So because I'm amazing and I love me and I love you guys. I shall see you soon. Keeping it real as always.